day 35, and you're in such a great momentum now. You've got a rhythm. You have established your new normal. Your new normal includes reading the Bible. How crazy cool is that? Mark chapter 7. Mark introduces us here to a theme which we saw in the book of Matthew was a major theme, that it is all about the heart. It's not about what we put in, it's about what comes out. And our actions matter only in as much as they reflect our heart. Mark is clearly writing to a different audience that Matthew was writing to. Matthew, he'd been writing to Jews, stacks and stacks of Old Testament quotations and prophecies fulfilled. We see very little of that here in the book of Mark. What we do see is we see even in this chapter, the habits of the Pharisees explained. We see Mark using two Aramaic words which the Jews would have understood natively, and he explains them in Greek. The translation hasn't highlighted this to us yet, but Mark has actually used a couple of Latin words without explanation, because clearly the Romans would have understood them. And so these Pharisees and scribes, they've come from Jerusalem to get a handle on this Jesus situation. Jerusalem was the epicenter of Jewish religion and the Jewish culture. And there were three major groups of religious leaders. They were the Pharisees. The Pharisees were out and about amongst the people in the synagogues, and they were all about the oral law, these hundreds of laws that had been built up over the years. The scribes or the lawyers, they were the experts in determining what is right and wrong and making decisions based upon the law. And then there were the Sadducees. They were the temple class. They were mostly in Jerusalem, all about the written law, and they were of a higher social class typically than the Pharisees. Mark here is highlighting faith. What does faith look like? And these examples of faith and unbelief, one then the other, one then the other. And there's a Syro-Phoenician woman and Greek woman. Jesus is the furthest away from Galilee that he will be in his earthly ministry, just as an aside, at this point. And he's fully intends to heal her daughter all the time. But he uses his conversation with her to draw out faith. And Mark gives us this as an example of what faith should look like. Jesus heads all the way across back to the Decapolis. There he heals a mute man. I love how he heals him in a completely different way to the way he heals anybody else. Just highlighting to us, there's no method. There isn't a right and a wrong way to pray for the sick. And Mark closes off this chapter again with a statement of awe, this amazing, amazing Jesus. And as he does that, he allows us to draw our own conclusion as to who is this man.